What if the most beautiful part of you wasn't gone, just waiting for someone to truly see it again? This isn't just a story about a birthday or a photograph. It's about what happens when someone dares to make you feel alive. After years of silence, loss, and forgetting who you once were. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever wondered what it means to be seen again, this story might stay with you. Leave a comment if this resonates with you, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Because stories like this aren't always easy to tell, but they're worth hearing. The silence had become a familiar companion, wrapping around me like a heavy shroud. Not the kind that wraps around you in warmth, like the gentle caress of wind weaving through pine trees on a snowy morning, but the kind that burrows deep into your very bones, leaving an unsettling chill that lingers long after. The kind that echoes in your mind, relentlessly, a haunting reminder that no one is coming for you. My name is Linda. At 53 years old, I find myself entrenched in this wood-framed house in Aspen Creek, Colorado, a place that has held my life captive for the past 7 years. Isolated or nearly isolated. In the wake of my husband's death, his son from a previous marriage, Evan, came to live with me. He claimed it was merely to assist in getting things settled. 7 winters have passed since that fateful moment. We never dared to speak of the reasons behind his decision to stay. He never utters the word mom, and I refuse to call him son. We've coexisted as 2 souls, each silently circling the vast void that surrounds us. Just the right distance to avoid contact, yet intimate enough to remind us of our presence. Evan has reached the age of 26. He stands tall, his voice a gentle whisper, exuding a calmness that belies his youth. He's a photographer, consumed by the interplay of light and shadows, relentlessly pursuing the fleeting moments that slip through the fingers of the oblivious. I've seen him pursue reflections as if they hold elusive secrets meant solely for him to seize. At times, I find myself questioning whether he perceives me in the same light, as if mirroring the depths of one's soul. Like a whisper in the wind, elusive and intangible, yet undeniably worthy of our attention. Perhaps it's just a figment of my imagination, or perhaps it's in the silent gesture of him making me tea, unbidden, that speaks volumes. The way he hesitates, his fingers brushing against mine as he hands me the plate, sends a shiver down my spine. Once I was the one who drew those gazes, in a time long past, when I was still lost in the spotlight's embrace, when I still donned heels that pinched, dresses that clung, and lipstick that carried weight. Yet, as the days turned into years, the world gradually turned its gaze away. Or perhaps, I ceased yearning for visibility, and then, this past winter, everything shifted. My 53rd birthday arrived with a whisper, shrouded in the stillness that often envelopes Aspen Creek. There is no cake. Silence reigns. The phone remains untouched.
No celebration.
The floorboards groan softly, a haunting echo in the stillness, while the heater murmurs its lonely tune, and frost clings desperately to the window, a chilling reminder of the cold outside. I was caught completely off guard. It had been years since I last did, but that morning, as I poured coffee into a chipped ceramic mug, Evan emerged silently behind me, a gentle smile gracing his lips, and a long, wrapped box cradled in his hands. "Happy birthday," he uttered, his voice barely above a whisper, laden with unspoken emotions. I blinked, my heart racing as the world around me seemed to hold its breath. "You actually remembered," he shrugged, his movements deliberate as he set the box down on the counter, a heavy silence hanging in the air. "Absolutely, I did." Inside lay the delicate tissue paper, dark and smooth, cradling a dress that whispered secrets of elegance and allure. This is no ordinary dress. It was a deep, obsidian hue, expertly cut on the bias, crafted from a fabric so ethereal it whispered against my skin. Exquisite, enduring, perilous. Resting delicately on top was a note card, the ink flowing from a trembling hand. "Tonight, you." The attic loomed above, shrouded in shadows and secrets, a place where whispers of the past echoed through the still air. No questions. I gazed up at him, my heart racing. What is happening here? He smiled once more, his gaze holding mine with an intensity that felt both thrilling and unnerving. A precious offering, the genuine kind. That evening, after a steamy bath and a lingering moment of doubt, I found myself before the attic door, clutching that dress tightly. It had been decades since I donned anything like this. It caressed my skin, embracing every curve, yet intruding in ways that felt both thrilling and unsettling. The attic had transformed, shrouded in an unsettling air of mystery. Evan had turned it into a small studio, dim lamps casting a warm glow, a velvet armchair positioned at the heart of the room, and red curtains draping the space like a dramatic stage waiting for its performance. A portable speaker emitted a hauntingly soft, ambient jazz, wrapping the room in a delicate yet palpable atmosphere. His camera loomed on a tripod, directed at the chair, its lens glinting ominously like a watchful eye in the shadows. He lingered by the window, fingers trembling as he adjusted the curtain, and then turned sharply as I entered the room. His expression twisted, from calm to a storm of unspoken emotions. Motionless yet vigilant, silent yet charged with an unspoken intensity. "You look," he started, but his voice faltered, hanging in the air like a fragile thread. Instead, he approached the chair, his movements deliberate and charged with unspoken intensity. "Sit down. I insist." I complied. He grasped the camera tightly, a storm of emotions swirling within him. "There's something I need to reveal to you, something you've long since overlooked." I swallowed with great difficulty. "What is that?" He peered through the lens, his heart racing with anticipation. "You are truly remarkable." And then, the sound of a click echoed in the silence. The shutter clicked shut, a sudden sound that pierced the silence. The flash surged with intensity. The room had transformed, no longer resembling an attic, but something far more unsettling. It was as if the world had transformed into a grand stage, where every moment held the weight of unspoken words and unresolved conflicts. And I, who had remained in the shadows, who had not summoned the courage to illuminate my presence for years, started to awaken the memories within me. The camera clicked once more, capturing the moment with an unsettling finality. Yet there's another side to consider. I remained still, yet every subtle movement felt charged with unspoken tension. My hands shifted slightly, my chin tilted with intent, and my legs crossed and uncrossed in a deliberate, almost agonizing rhythm. The chair groaned under my weight, each movement resonating in the heavy silence of the attic, amplifying the tension in the air. Evan remained silent, his words trapped within him, heavy with unspoken thoughts. He circled me with deliberate slowness, shifting his stance, inching nearer, then retreating, only to close the distance once more. His camera clicked, echoing like a heartbeat, filling the room with an electric tension. His gaze was not that of a photographer, but something far more intense, piercing through the air with unspoken weight. He was watching me as if I were a tempest brewing over a tranquil lake. Wary, entranced, filled with awe, the fabric clung to my thighs, a suffocating reminder of its daring plunge as I leaned forward, the tension palpable in the air. I left it broken. I couldn't bring myself to do it, not because I sought to lure him in, but because, for once, I yearned to experience the weight of my own presence, to stand tall and not fade into the shadows, to claim one's presence, to be gazed upon, not merely as a mother figure, nor as a woman beyond her prime, but as an individual deserving of the spotlight. I shifted once more, the weight of anticipation heavy in the air. This time, the strap of the dress slid down my shoulder, exposing the delicate skin of my arm, a moment that felt charged with unspoken tension. Evan stood motionless, his heart pounding in his chest, not in a way that stirs the heart, just suspended in time. He remained motionless, the strap untouched, a heavy silence hanging in the air. Silence hung heavily in the air, his lips sealed tight, leaving a void that screamed for words unspoken. With a deliberate, measured movement, he lifted the camera once more, the air thick with anticipation, and pressed the shutter. "That's it," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's the side of you I longed to witness." I swallowed hard. My mouth felt parched, a stark reminder of the weight of the moment. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. "You've always been beautiful," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper, laden with unspoken emotions. "Yet, I doubt anyone ever granted you the right to experience it." In that moment, an undeniable change coursed through me, not in the way of an explosion. It was more akin to a soft door creaking open, a door that had remained closed for so long that its very existence had faded from my memory. I locked my gaze onto the camera, a silent challenge hanging in the air. I crossed one leg over the other, each movement steeped in intention. I raked my fingers through my hair, allowing it to cascade down in a wild, untamed manner. I smiled, not the courteous smile I had offered to countless faces over the years, but the one that had lain dormant within me for decades. The kind of smile that challenges you to ever forget my presence. Evan's gaze remained unwavering. He continued to click, each sound echoing in the silence, a relentless reminder of the tension building around him. At a certain moment, the world beyond faded into nothingness. It was only me, the sharp click of the shutter echoing in the stillness, and the sultry notes of jazz weaving through the shadows of the room. As the final frame faded, he lowered the camera with deliberate slowness, as if the very act could shatter the fragile stillness that hung in the air. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, "for allowing me the chance to behold you." I nodded, my voice trapped in a silence that felt suffocating. Doubt gnawed at me, leaving me uncertain if my voice would emerge steady and unwavering. It had been more than 2 decades since someone had gazed at me with such intensity. Once Evan departed from the attic that night, I was engulfed by the heavy silence he had abandoned. I found myself reluctant to part with the dress. I felt an overwhelming urge to keep the music playing, as if silencing it would shatter the fragile moment that enveloped me. I hesitated to wash away the makeup I had bravely chosen to wear once more after all those years. Instead, I found myself before the full-length mirror in the corner, gazing at a reflection of myself that felt like a ghost from the past, haunting me with memories I hadn't confronted in decades. It wasn't that I hadn't confronted my reflection. I had, time and again. Yet, in this moment, I found myself gazing upon a reflection that felt profoundly altered. A gentle pressure encircled my waist, stirring a whirlwind of emotions within me, delicate creases framing my gaze, a lingering heaviness in my shoulders that clings on, refusing to fade away. Yet, beneath the surface, there lingered an unspoken truth, a sudden flicker, a shadow of the woman I once was, who twirled in the flickering glow of candles, who captivated with a mere smile, who commanded every space she entered, even when draped only in her unwavering confidence. She remained, an unwavering presence in the shadows, flickering in the shadows, yet still lingering. And tonight, someone had gazed at her as if she truly mattered. That realization struck me with an intensity one never saw coming. I sank into the edge of the velvet chair, my fingers trembling as they traced the contours of my knees. They felt strange, as if they were intertwined with the essence of someone who was both ancient and youthful, creating an unsettling dissonance within. My throat constricted. It was never about Evan. It transcended mere attraction, seduction, or the fleeting nature of youth. It was a desperate plea for recognition. There's a deep, unspoken yearning that lingers in the shadows, particularly for women as they cross into a new chapter of life. The desperate yearning to hold significance, to remain captivating, not merely reliable, to feel the piercing acknowledgement that you are indeed seen. Your story is far from over, it has merely been biding its time. I lingered in that moment, caught in a stillness that felt heavy, neither tears nor smiles breaking the silence, just the rhythm of my breath echoing in the void. And in the haunting silence that followed the last note of that jazz track, as the old attic floor creaked ominously beneath me, I whispered a solemn vow to myself, I will not vanish into the shadows once more. I refuse to apologize for my desire for something greater. I refuse to diminish myself to conform to another's vision of who I ought to be. The attic enveloped me in a stifling warmth as I stepped inside, the air thick with anticipation. Unusually warm, Evan had lowered the lights, allowing the shadows to creep in, while the windows stood ajar, inviting the soft, eerie whispers of the night wind to seep through. In that moment, everything was stripped away, no props, no camera to capture the scene. Only the velvet chair stands sentinel, and the chasm of silence stretches between us. He lingered by the window, hands buried deep in his pockets, gazing out into the distance. "I didn't think you'd come," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, refusing to face her. "I nearly didn't," I responded, the door clicking shut with a finality that echoed in the silence. He pivoted sharply to confront me. For a moment we stood frozen, two souls on opposite sides of a fragile boundary, both acutely aware that it was about to shatter. The white shirt clung to me once more, a haunting reminder of what had transpired. This time, completely unbuttoned, draped only over my bare skin and the weight of my own breath. It was on the brink of collapse at the very core. "I didn't come to be photographed," I whispered, the weight of my words hanging in the air. "I didn't set up the camera," he confessed, a tremor in his voice that hinted at unspoken truths. And then he moved across the room, each step heavy with unspoken words. With each deliberate step, he closed the distance between us, his presence heavy in the air. Silence enveloped us. We stood frozen, unyielding, our eyes locked in a fierce gaze. He extended his hand, not for contact, but to plead for answers. Through his gaze, in his silence, a storm brewed beneath the surface. With the quiver in his breath, I responded in silence, moving closer to him. His hands slowly ascended towards my face, a charged moment hanging in the air. With a delicate touch, it was as if he had envisioned this moment for an eternity, yet a deep-seated fear held him back from shattering its fragile beauty. His thumbs grazed beneath my jaw, and then he pressed his lips against mine. Unhurried, carelessness reigns. He kissed me as if the very essence of my name had been a longing he carried for an eternity. It felt as though each second had elongated into an unbearable silence, thick with anticipation. I felt myself melt away, like ice succumbing to the relentless heat of the sun. My body leaned forward, and his arms enveloped me, drawing me in with an urgency that could no longer be contained. The shirt slid tantalizingly off one shoulder, then the other, a moment suspended in time. My hands pressed against his chest, firm, trembling, radiating heat. Our lips met once more, igniting a spark that lingered in the air. And once more, this time more profound, more chaotic. My breath hitched. His lips moved from my mouth to the delicate curve of my neck, and I allowed my head to fall back, a gesture of complete surrender. "Command me to halt," he whispered, his voice thick with urgency. "I can't," I breathed, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. We dared not venture beyond that point. We were never meant to, yet my skin seared in the wake of his touch, and my mouth still throbbed with the haunting echo of his name etched into it. As we finally broke apart, a wave of dizziness washed over me, a touch elevated, excessively vibrant. We gazed at one another, two souls adrift. Yet in that fleeting moment, we found a shared understanding that ignited the air between us. "This is dangerous," I whispered, my heart racing wildly. "Only if we choose to deceive ourselves," he said, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. And in that fleeting moment, the distance that once defined us transformed irrevocably. The point of no return had been crossed, but I was compelled to do so. I awoke the following morning, filled with an unsettling anticipation, though I couldn't quite grasp what it was I expected. Perhaps the unsettling sound of the floor creaking just beyond my bedroom door. Perhaps to discover Evan in the kitchen, brewing coffee as if the world had remained unchanged. Perhaps the haunting strains of music echoing from the attic will reach your ears. Instead, an oppressive silence hung in the air, the kind that churns restlessly, the kind that pulses fiercely within your chest. With each step, I approached the kitchen, the air thick with anticipation. There's no coffee. There's no trace of him. I ascended to the attic. A void awaited me. The hook by the door stood bare, the absence of his coat a haunting reminder of what once was. His boots were no exception. I lingered in silence, one hand clutching the edge of the counter, wrestling with the tumult of emotions that swirled within me, searching for the one that truly captured the weight of the moment. Could it be regret, release, or merely the haunting pain of something that had once existed and was now lost forever? Moments later, I discovered the envelope, ominously taped to the inside of the front door. My name, etched in that delicate, meticulous handwriting of his. Within lay a solitary photograph, starkly rendered in black and white, its matte surface absorbing the light, whispering secrets of the past. It was I, unscripted, untamed. Alone in the attic, I sit, enveloped in that white shirt, my eyes barely open, a faint, secretive smile playing at the edges of my lips, a smile meant for no one but me. Beneath the photo lay a note, its words heavy with meaning. You don't belong behind glass, but you were meant to be captured, if only for a fleeting moment, just as I witnessed you. Evan, I clutched the photo tightly against my chest, a surge of emotions flooding through me. I shut my eyes tightly. The pain was indescribable. A deep ache that signified something beautiful had unfolded, only to be snatched away, leaving an emptiness in its wake. He stood his ground, refusing to flee. He had forgotten something crucial, a haunting trace, a stark revelation, and somehow, that was all it took. If the story stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of a part of yourself that deserves to be seen, don't keep it quiet. Leave a comment below. Tell me if you've ever had a moment like this, a moment that made you feel truly alive. And if you want more stories that go beyond the surface, stories about second chances, quiet courage, and the beauty we often forget, hit subscribe. Your voice matters here. Your story matters. Let's keep telling them together.